Hello, and welcome to a three-part series around Sage Intacct's multi-book functionality. I'll start initially with kind of a general overview and some examples of where we can really get the power out of this multi-book setup. Then get into some more details around purchasing commitments example. And then at the third part, we'll go through some statistical book tracking as well. So with that, my name is Brian Miller, Director of Solution Engineering here at Equation Technologies, and I'll just jump right into it. So with a standard ERP system, let's maybe think of a legacy ERP system, right? You generally will have just a single reporting or financial book. This could be accrual basis or it could be cash basis. And, oftentimes we find the need that we need to do additional reporting outside of that standard book, right? Maybe I need to basically produce a set of US GAAP financials. Or maybe I have board financials that I need to produce to a board, and I can only carry my normal standard, fiscal period 1 through 12 accrual book. So what I oftentimes need to do in these legacy systems is download my financial data to Excel, manipulate this data to then produce a set of financials with those, additional entries or book, reporting transactions embedded in there. And I oftentimes, have to do this manually, over and over, whether it's month-end financials or year-end financials, right? I will oftentimes be doing quite a bit of manual work in these legacy systems to really kind of combine those additional reporting transactions to produce a subset of normal financial reports. Well, with Sage Intacct's multi-book functionality, that is native to the system. We can establish more than just our standard, let's say, accrual book or our cash basis book. We can have US GAAP reporting book. We can turn on a tax adjusting reporting book, right? And these are native kind of configurations. We can also then take that a step further and do our user-defined books. So we could have things like IFRS reporting, maybe country-specific reporting books, right? Maybe purchasing commitments, as I mentioned, allocations, eliminations, global consolidations of various types, right? North America and a European reporting book, and then a South America reporting book. These are all just kind of examples of the various types of user-defined books we could also establish. And this is native functionality within Sage Intacct. It just takes a little configuration to establish these new books. And then we can basically embed that in our workflow and, have that start to transact and compile in the system. And then we can produce financials directly out of the ERP without the need for actually downloading and manipulating Excel there manually. We can all do this within the ERP system in Sage Intacct directly. So, kind of think about producing a standard trial balance. I could actually do that right out of my Sage ERP here by saying, hey, I want to actually combine my normal accrual book with my US GAAP entries, right? Now I could easily, it's just a click of a button, which we'll show down the road here, but that's just easily, a kind of a checkbox or a selection on our parameters and running a standard trial balance. So that I could either say, hey, show it combined or actually peel it out. Or I could look at it side by side. I can produce a set of financials that show me my actual spend to date, fiscal period, 1 through XYZ. And then I may want to see, side by side my actual committed POs, right? If you think about purchases, right, and purchase orders, those are non-financial impact transactions. But I could actually show those on a financial report using this multi-book technology. And then I can have a net impact, right, to show my forecasted net expenditures with those commitments, even though those haven't been received or invoiced yet in the system. Same could apply on the sales side, or again, as I mentioned, allocations or even statistical metrics. So that concept of multi-book becomes really powerful in Sage Intacct so that we can produce these embedded financials or side-by-side financials with not just our standard cash basis or accrual basis, but But both of those, or again, any of those other examples, either embedded or side by side. This concept of multi-book, it's think about it as sort of a book stacking mechanism, right? So that what I can say is, hey, I've got my fiscal period 1 through 12 financial transactions. And then on top of that, I want to actually produce a set of financials and layer on my GAAP adjusting entries, right? My management or board reporting entries. Then I can easily just peel those in and out if I want to, or see them side by side, right? So again, that's a concept of book stacking. On top of those adjusting entries, I could say then actually embed my allocations and my eliminations. So you get the idea of the book stacking, right? It can keep going up and up, or I could look at it side by side, sort of horizontally as well. We'll show you examples of this as we get into parts 2 and 3 here of this series. But again, that becomes really powerful in the system, this native functionality, because again, we eliminate all this manual work that you oftentimes have to do outside the system to get this same net effect of producing a set of financials with multiple reporting books, right? So if you look at my screen here, just as a quick example, right, I can kind of show you here, that I'm looking at a members metric dashboard in Sage Intacct, right? And I've got a couple computational performance cards here, one being my average new CMRR per customer. Well, what is that? That's actually a combination of financial and non-financial data, financial and statistical metrics, right? That's my actual financial revenue postings, but I've gone ahead and calculated an average using my net new customers, which is a statistical metric, and that's a separate book, right? My statistical tracking book. So I've been able to computate this average directly on my dashboard. And again, that's real time. So as we add new entries, or add new customers, and or add new revenue, that computation will change, right? That's just one example, but as I mentioned, we've got the ability to go ahead and have our normal accrual or cash basis, or both. Then we've got our GAAP adjusting, and then we take that concept further by defining user-defined books. And we can have as many set up in here as we'd like. You can see in my demo instance here, I've got an ASC 605 and 606, different type of revenue recognition books. I could look at those side by side to see the impact, right? Which again, we can show you here in a bit. I can, set up one for allocations, committed spends, right? Eliminations. So you can have as many set up in here as you like. You can really start to see the power of that when I'm getting into my reporting and my dashboards and things like that. I mentioned being able to run that trial balance by, with or without these reporting books. And just to give you a quick example what that looks like, just in the parameters, right? If I just go to a standard trial balance in my general ledger here within Intacct, well, as I come down, I can select all my filters and parameters here, but notice what I've got right here. Of course, I've got my normal reporting book, right? I've got some global consolidations here, or my standard accrual reporting book, which is my default. But what do we have here? Well, we have the ability to then actually select adjusting or user-defined books, right? So that I could say, hey, on top of my accrual book, I want to see my GAAP adjusting entries, right? Maybe I also want to see eliminations, or maybe I want to actually see my PO commitments, right? So I can kind of mix and match. There's that book stacking in play again, right? So I can see, again, that combination of transactional data directly when I produce this. And I could actually say, hey, just show me those separate, or show me those combined with my accrual. Now that's just native functionality in our standard trial balance. But again, picture this in any of our financial reports that we've established, or any of our financial graphs. We can do the same concept here. So we'll show you that as we go along a little further in parts 2 and 3 into more detail here. So thank you, and look forward to the next one.